seen a lot where when artists enter a 50-50 split, it feels like a good deal at the beginning because it's like, okay, cool. Like I don't have to front a bunch of money. We're in this together kind of thing. But my observation is very often those kinds of arrangements just make the process of producing and releasing the music just take really long.
Hey everyone, Daniel Grimmett here. You're listening to Producer Management, the podcast that lets you in on real conversations between professional music producers and their teams, the deals, the strategies, and the unfiltered advice. This show is brought to you by my company, Dark Label Music. When producers want clarity, strategy, and growth, they call us. We're hired as a strategic partner, part management, part creative and business development, designed for the realities of being a music producer right now. So whether you're a small studio or a Grammy-winning veteran, reach out to us at darklabelmusic.com to see if we can help. So something that freelance producers always struggle with is how to navigate collaboration requests or when artists only want to work on 50-50 splits. And this becomes a real problem when you're focused on trying to build your client base and actually get paid upfront production fees. In this episode, I want to show you how my producers navigate that. Now, a quick caveat here, every producer is going to have projects where it makes sense to waive their upfront production fee and just work for back-end royalties. This episode isn't about whether or not you should do that. Obviously, you should. Every producer has those projects too. This episode is just more how to navigate these requests when you're primarily focused on freelance work or you're trying to increase the amount of freelance work that you're getting. So what I notice is that when producers are talking with an artist and the artist mentions that they've only done collaborations or 50-50 splits or that's how they work, the producer immediately gives up on the conversation. And this can a lot of times reinforce their belief that no one has a budget or wants to pay them. But the thing that you have to understand is that artists don't really want a collaboration. That's not really what they want. What they really want is to obviously make and release great songs that will move their career forward, right? A collaboration or a 50-50 split, that is just one of the many vehicles to achieve that. So is hiring a producer. So is producing it themselves. Those are all just vehicles to get what they actually want. That's not what they actually want. So that's how you have to think about it. This is why it's worth always having the conversation so you can identify what their real situation and goals are. In my opinion, this kind of communication, the ability to do this, is one of the top skills that separates successful freelance producers from the ones who are perpetually struggling. But you might be wondering, how do you get good at having these types of conversations, especially without it feeling like you're being pushy or making it awkward? And the answer to that is, just like anything else, you have to practice it. So in Dark Label, we have our producers come together to role play different conversations and scenarios that they've had out in the real world so that they can just get better at having them in the future. And the rest of our producers get to listen in and learn from that as well. So today I want to give you, the listener, that same opportunity so that you can see how my producers navigate conversations around different deal structures and situations like this with artists. Here's the clip.
So I remember we talked a little bit about this last time we spoke, but if you could just kind of paint the picture for me again, like we talked about where you would ideally like to be as an artist in like 2 or 3 years' time. So if we just go through that again, like let's imagine we're sitting down, we're having coffee, it's 3 years from now and music is going amazingly well for you. What does your world look like at that point?
Yeah, so for me, it looks like definitely playing some festivals and like some bigger shows. Because right now I've just been doing a lot of small bar gig kind of things. Like sometimes people aren't even listening, and that's just frustrating. I want to like be headlining some shows. I definitely want to have like a consistent kind of reoccurring fan base. And you know, I think I definitely have felt this year for my releases, like I've started to see some people latch on, and like that's really exciting. And so I want to have like a consistent fan base for sure.
Okay, awesome. So I'm kind of hearing like playing shows is the kind of big picture here, like playing festivals and headlining. Mm-hmm. And the kind of route to getting there is building community around your music. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. And so you said you've had some people kind of latching on already, which is an awesome sign. So I think like that's a path that's opening up for you. I'm curious, like if everything kind of stayed the same as you've been doing it up till now, do you think you could get to that point, or are there certain things that are kind of bottlenecks in that path for you at the moment?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think that uh it might be more of a 5 or 6 year path if I like keep doing it how I've been doing it lately. The biggest reason is just that I'm like haven't been having a hard time releasing super consistently and like with content and everything. It's just like a lot. So I just don't know if I'm putting out enough music to like be there in 3 years, you know?
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a super insightful thing. Consistency is really the thing. I know it's what everyone says. It sounds a cliche, but it's really true.
Yeah.
Remind me, do you mostly produce your music from start to end, or do you usually work with producers at some stage of the process?
Yeah, so I've been working with one guy. He's pretty busy, so we haven't been able to do a bunch. But yeah, typically working with someone.
Okay, cool. And just out of curiosity, what are your arrangements with this producer in terms of splits, production fees, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we've been doing like on a splits basis. So we just like split everything 50-50.
I see. Yeah, yeah, it's a pretty common arrangement for artists.
Yeah.
Just to be like fully transparent, I think I've seen a lot where when artists enter a 50-50 split, it feels like a good deal at the beginning because it's like,
Mhm.
okay, cool. Like I don't have to front a bunch of money. We're in this together kind of thing. But my observation is very often those kinds of arrangements just make the process of producing and releasing the music just take really long. Like often twice as long, sometimes much, much longer than that. And you don't probably, I mean, do you feel like you could go back to the producer and be like, hey, can we kind of hurry this up a little bit?
Yeah, not super.
Yeah, right. Because it's like you're both in it together and it's a kind
Yeah.
of effort, right? So that feels a bit
Mhm.
awkward. So my experience has shown that if an artist is going to invest in the project and pay a production fee up front, which usually is an advance on the royalty, so you're not just
Mhm.
giving money, you're giving an advance on the royalties for the future,
Mhm.
then that turns things into a client relationship rather than a collaborative relationship. And
Mm.
therefore that kind of gives you the power as the client to communicate timelines,
Mm.
communicate a release schedule and that kind of thing. So I think when you were saying that you kind of feel things is moving a bit slow, and if you want to get where you get right, get to where you want to get doing the things you're doing now, it's going to be 5-6 years, but you want
Mhm.
to half that. What I kind of see as the solution to this is probably investing in production so that you can leverage that client
Mm.
sort of status in the relationship to speed up timelines and get things moving as you want them to at the speed you want. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that makes a
Okay,
lot
cool.
of sense.
Yeah. So I think this is definitely something I can help with, and that's an arrangement I tend to go with quite a lot.
Okay.
So if you're open to it, I could talk you through my process and what working together might look like. Does that sound good?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. Break.
Okay, cool.
Love to
Dude,
do that. But yeah.
that was incredible. Phenomenal. Yeah, I need to take lessons from you from now on. You're guys, we've had so many conversations on these streams about talking about collabs into like paid work. And I kind of, do my best to fumble through what I say, but like that, like
You crushed it, dude.
I was
That
literally,
was
I was like,
amazing.
because what I thought you were going to say, you said, so just being really upfront. And I thought you were going to say, I charge for work. And I was like, no, you don't need to I don't understand that yet. And then you were like, what I found is that like the priority level on, collaborative projects, like, and then you asked like, do you feel like you could go to that producer and say like, hey, can we hurry this up and get it done? And that was so like, because it's funny, I wasn't like planning on being an artist who was doing a 50-50 split, but I know that's come up a lot for a lot of us. And so I kind of was like, oh yeah, let's throw a curveball in there, right? And then you just like sailed through it. And in the way you said that question specifically. So that's such a good example. And I want to highlight the power of using your professional knowledge to infer something that the artist is going through, right? I didn't tell him, hey, the reason I'm taking, slowly on projects or whatever is because I don't feel like I can go to a producer and tell them to hurry up when I'm not paying them, right? But that makes total sense to feel that way in that situation, right? So Christian came in with professional knowledge of this is what an artist might be going through, and he inferred it, and it was spot on the money, right? And he asked, he didn't just say, here's how you feel. He's like, do you feel like you could do this? Right? And I was like, no, I don't. I don't feel like I could do that. And then it was like, boom, 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 boom. If you change this, he gave me a solution. He gave me value. That was value. What we all felt there was well communicated, perfectly placed value, which was if you speed or if you change this one thing, you will get this result because this is most likely the most like common denominator of like what's slowing you down, right? That's value.
So as you just heard there, the producer wasn't saying the artist was wrong or trying to convince them why they should hire a producer. All they were doing was asking questions, identifying problems if there were any, and then helping the artist come to a conclusion for themselves, whatever makes the most sense to them. Producers don't have to be great at sales. They really just need to be great at consulting. What you just heard was straight up consulting. And what you might find super interesting about the clip I just played is that the producer who was leading the role play, the one with the British accent, he wasn't even a full-time producer yet when this role play took place. He had maybe been working with clients for 4 months or something. And I tell you that just to prove that this is a skill that can be learned early on, and it should be. If you go to producermanagement.com, you'll find links to jump on our newsletter, which I highly recommend because it's the perfect companion to the show. And if you enjoy what we're doing here, please leave us a 5-star review or share it with a friend. Thanks for listening. That's the episode.